And it'll all make sense to you when the baby starts to move.
Okay.
The pictures are produced by sending ultra-high frequency sound waves, far too high for us to hear, from the probe into the body of the mother.
That's right.
The waves penetrate through internal tissue, passing easily through fluid areas like amniotic fluid, but bouncing back strongly off solids like bone.
You can see 1, 2...
The reflected waves are collected to produce an internal image, similar to an X-ray, but without the danger. Ultrasound scans are not known to cause any harm to the fetus.
That's the face, up there, of course.
Ultrasound waves don't travel well through air, so the scans are less effective looking through an adult stomach or intestine, for example, which are riddled with air pockets. But inside the womb, the fetus lives in fluid. Even the lungs are filled with fluid, and the ultrasound produces a moving image, which to a trained operator will reveal much about the health and development of the fetus.
We have to make sure. This is the cerebellum.
This first scan is also a chance to establish a more accurate due date based on the baby's size, rather than guessing from the date of the last menstrual period.
So it's 82.9 millimeters for the crown length, okay? Now, just do the nuchal translucency, because you haven't had that test, okay?
The scan can also show early, but not conclusive, diagnostic features pointing towards genetic abnormalities.
No, that's a test for Down syndrome. Now, it doesn't definitely say the baby's got Down syndrome or not, but it tells you if you're at risk.
Until recently, non-invasive research into the development of the human fetus has been restricted to analysis of stillborn specimens, or what can be gleaned from grainy, two-dimensional ultrasound scans. But now, this area of exploration has been revolutionized with the development of three-dimensional scans, and even more remarkably, 3D scans which move in real time, known as 4D scans.
Oh, look.
For obstetricians, this tool has been the equivalent of the Hubble Space Telescope, and for the first time, it has been possible to open up a window on the womb and to see babies growing before our eyes. These images show the incredible range of behavior that even a very young fetus is capable of. Obstetricians can directly observe how the fetus grows, how it behaves, how it reacts to stimulation, how its reflexes help it prepare for birth and for survival outside the womb. Professor Campbell is a world-renowned pioneer of these new scans and is responsible for taking these incredible images. This scan shows a 30-week fetus yawning, and this one, a 32-week fetus playing with its nose. These 4D images are some of the earliest ever taken of a fetus in the womb. This shows an embryo of just 6 weeks. The fetus is on the left, and the yolk sac, still bigger than the fetus, is on the right. Here, an embryo of just 8 weeks, less than 3 centimeters long, is making its first movements. As well as checking the health of the baby, this scan will be the first opportunity to tell if you're pregnant with 1 baby, or 2, or more. Multiple births run in families. If your mother's family has a history of non-identical twins, then you are far more likely to have twins yourself. Identical twins are formed when an egg splits in 2. The twins will be in the same sac in the womb and will share a placenta. If 2 eggs are released and fertilized at the same time, then the twins will be non-identical or fraternal. In this case, the twins will be separated in the womb, each twin living in its own amniotic sac. They will also have separate placentas, and the blood flow to each twin is carefully monitored throughout pregnancy. Other than a slightly early birth, there need be no further complication. Even though she won't be able to walk until she's around a year old, the building blocks to her first steps are there after just 11 weeks in the womb. These 4D scans show 11 and 12-week-old fetuses kicking and pushing out their legs in what is known as the stepping reflex. A reflex action is a pre-programmed biological impulse. When her feet touch the base of the uterus, the nervous system triggers an automatic muscle reaction in the legs. At this age, there is so much space in the uterus, the fetus bounces and leaps around, using the walls of the womb as a trampoline. The ability to walk is an important survival skill, and the more the fetus moves, the stronger the reflex will grow. You can clearly see this stepping reflex in newborns when you dangle their feet on the ground. The period from 6 to 11 weeks has seen the most dramatic transformation of the entire pregnancy, with the fetus undergoing a metamorphosis and growing nearly 5 times bigger in a frantic 5-week burst. Over 200 different types of cell have been made. Muscles and nerves are twitching. There is a liver, 2 kidneys, a stomach no bigger than a grain of rice. All the elements of a human baby have been formed, and it's still only 7 centimeters long. At this point, after 12 weeks, the fetus enters the second trimester, the middle 3 months of pregnancy. Although tiny still, no bigger than a fist, she is now less delicate, and there is less risk of a miscarriage. Miscarriage is most common in the first 3 months, when new cells are developing. An imbalance in the immune system, stress, if the mother has previously given birth to a boy, could all increase the risk. Only 50% of fertilized eggs survive all the way through pregnancy. In most miscarriages, the mother is unaware of what has happened and may mistake her miscarriage for a heavy period. As they develop, initially male and female fetuses have identical genitals. Both sexes have a protuberance, which for boys will become a penis and for girls a clitoris. At 12 weeks, the only difference is that they stick out at different angles. Looking at an ultrasound, an expert might guess the sex of the baby based on this angle, but it will be a few more weeks before there is a clear difference between male and female genitals. But in each case, the sex organs will already be hard at work. For a male, the testicles will be producing testosterone, and the ovaries of a baby girl will already be busy making her own supply of eggs. After 4 months, the fetus will be up to 14 centimeters long. The nervous system is up and running, and her movements are increasingly coming under the control of her brain. She is much more mobile now. Muscles are flexing, fingers and toes are separate and defined, and bones are hardening. Hands develop before the feet. This could be because hands are going to be used first once the baby is born. Or it could be because the hands, being important sensory organs, develop at the same time as all the other senses are beginning to form. The eyes are now closer together, giving the fetus a more human look. The central nervous system has now extended connections from the brain to most parts of the body. And the brain is establishing total control. The heart, for instance, is no longer beating spontaneously and spasmodically. Instead, the brain regulates the muscles and keeps them pumping blood at a steady 140 to 150 beats per minute, roughly twice an adult's heart rate. Using a Doppler probe, it is now possible to hear what the baby's heart sounds like.
It's 146 beats per minute, the heart, see? Which is just the right rate.
As the nervous system extends throughout the fetus, so too does her capacity to respond to stimulus. She is becoming sensitive to touch, and if prodded through the mother's abdomen, she may squirm. From 16 weeks gestation, the fetus makes lots of intricate movement. She can bend, flex, and twist fingers, hands, wrists, knees, and toes, and is already beginning to develop an awareness of the space around her. It's called proprioception. This unconscious sense of body and space helps us to interact with our environment. We take in information from a variety of sensory organs, eyes, ears, nose, and limbs, and we build up a mental understanding of the outside world. As we grow up, we take for granted the ability to coordinate our movements, to stand without falling over, to run and jump and roll down a hill. We have an understanding of where our body is and what it's doing that has been developed and refined over the course of our early lives from a constant system of feedback. This control is something we've been developing since we were in the womb. This 4D scan shows actual footage of a fetus reaching up to touch her head. In these computer-generated images, the movements have been taken directly from observations of the 4D scans. Sensors give constant feedback to the brain, and the movement can then be refined and gradually perfected. As the fetus explores her body, she will spend a lot of time practicing her grasping reflex, grabbing hold of her hands, feet, fingers, toes, and even her umbilical cord, sometimes getting it tangled around her body. It is, however, very long. By the end of pregnancy, it will be over half a metre and very elastic. It presents no danger at this stage. The grasping reflex is something of a puzzle, as it offers a newborn baby no life-saving advantage to be able to cling tightly to things. The answer may lie in our ancestry. Life is relatively simple for a newborn human. She will be carried around with her mother in either arms or sling or pram. For a newborn ape, survival depends on the ability to cling to the fur of her mother as she forages for food or escapes from predatory claws. With their mother's lack of fur and a stable family life, human babies today are less dependent on this reflex for survival. The fetus will, however, still develop an incredibly strong grip. After about 18 weeks, the fetus's digestive system is beginning to work. She has no need to eat or drink. But as you can see in this real 4D image, she begins to swallow the fluid she floats in, the amniotic fluid. Some indigestible waste will gather in her intestine in the form of a greeny-black paste called meconium. But most of the fluid will pass through her urinary system back out to rejoin the amniotic fluid. Round about this time, when the fetus is about 18 weeks old, the mother may become aware of her growing baby's movements for the first time. Although the fetus has been active for quite some time, it's only now that the movements are strong enough for her to feel. Women who have previously been pregnant will be more alert to this slight fluttering sensation and may pick it up when the baby is just 15 weeks old. The eyes, now in their correct position, are generally thought to remain fused shut until 24 weeks. But 4D ultrasound has revealed some babies opening their eyes as early as 18 weeks. It's dark, of course, so there's nothing to see. But even if there were light, the eyes don't work this early. It's just the first sign of the blinking reflex. The fetus, which has been growing for 19 weeks, is now halfway through her journey towards birth. The roughly mapped out baby has grown to 18 centimeters long and is now taking on an incredible level of detail. She even has her very own fingerprints.
Get a 3D picture just perfect for you in a minute.
Most mothers will have a more detailed second scan around now, which will survey the anatomy of the fetus and measure the rate of growth since the last scan.
Wow, so now baby is...
These scans are performed for medical reasons only and help to predict possible complications. 4D scans are especially good for diagnosing a cleft palate. But doctors have discovered a beneficial role the scans can play in developing a bond between the baby and her parents.
There's the arms going down by the side. See that? See there? And now the baby's kneeling. You see that?
Yeah.
Research has shown that seeing your baby's face and expression while it's still inside the womb can be an intense experience. And such early bonding can provide an important boost to the baby's development once it's born, and to the long-term relationship between the child and her parents.
And that's the arms there.
After 6 months of pregnancy, at the end of the second trimester, everything has developed and is functioning as it will in the fully grown baby. It's all there, just very small and immature. In the next phase, she will embark on one of the most dramatic challenges of her time in the womb, the development of the senses. The fetus is 6 months old now and has reached a major landmark. Though barely longer than her father's hand, it is possible that she could survive outside the cradle of the womb. She'd still need extensive care, but 24 weeks is currently regarded as the earliest that a baby can be born and still have a good chance of surviving. Exceptionally, a few babies live when born as young as 22 weeks. But any baby that is born prematurely faces an increased risk of brain damage, with nearly half of all babies born before 26 weeks developing disabilities or learning difficulties. The big problem is the lungs, which are barely capable at this feeble age of taking enough oxygen into the bloodstream to keep the baby alive. For most babies, it's time to lie back and relax and look forward to the third trimester, when they can put on some fat and learn how to work their bodies. The mother is becoming increasingly aware of movements made by the fetus. Her abdomen will be growing, and she's likely to be feeling better now than at any time throughout her pregnancy, and at her most energetic and active. She will be past the effects of morning sickness, and the fetus is not yet big enough to cause the kind of discomfort she will feel at the end of pregnancy. From 24 weeks or 6 months, the fetus enters one of the most exciting and dramatic periods of development. This is the time when she receives her first stimulation from the world beyond, as her senses flicker into life. Most of the sense organs, ears, nose, taste buds, and the nerves that respond to touch are now mature. Her brain is being bombarded by signals from these sensory cells, and it must begin to interpret this overload of sensation. Throughout her life, her senses will be her key to the world beyond. They will allow her to develop a sense of self, to interact with others, to explore, and to learn. The new generation of 4D ultrasound scans are continually providing fresh insight into the behavior of the growing fetus. The technology is advancing, and as the experience of practitioners evolves, the expanding wealth of imagery sheds new light on the invisible world inside the womb. In this image, we can clearly see a 24-week-old fetus sticking out her tongue. No one knows exactly why, but we do know that her mouth is full of taste buds. She could be tasting the amniotic fluid. A fetus's mouth and nose are permanently filled with amniotic fluid that we know can carry the tastes and smells of the mother's food. Strong flavours will easily pass through the placenta into the baby's bloodstream and will eventually be passed out into the amniotic fluid, and the baby can get an early taste of her mother's cooking. Taste and smell are closely linked. Taste is a very limited sense. It only tells you if food is sweet, sour, salty, or bitter. Its main purpose is to make sure we don't eat anything poisonous. To identify more complex flavours like garlic, onion, chicken, herbs, we actually use our sense of smell, a much more sophisticated sense. Very strong spices even stimulate pain receptors in the mouth. A developed sense of taste and smell could help the baby take her first sips of breast milk once she's born. Just like the amniotic fluid, breast milk will contain a similar selection of tastes and smells from the mother's food. If the newborn baby is already familiar with these flavours and likes the taste, this may encourage her to feed. This scan shows a 24-week-old fetus opening and closing her eyes. Although the eyes are fully formed by halfway through the pregnancy, 5 weeks ago, seeing is the one sense a fetus can't experience until she's born. It's too dark in the womb. It is possible that some very bright light could penetrate into the uterus, direct sunlight for instance, and the fetus may be able to detect a faint glow. But the uterus wall is so thick, buried under a layer of skin and fat, that most of the time the fetus evolves in total darkness. There may be nothing to see, but opening and closing in this way helps the fetus develop the blinking reflex, a reflex that stays with us for life, protecting our eyes from foreign objects, keeping them moist, and shielding them from bright light. At 25 weeks, the eyes are so intricate that even the eyelashes have grown. But there is one detail that may not fully develop, however much time the fetus spends inside the womb: the colour of the eyes. Some pigments need light to form properly, and the baby's eyes may change colour during the first months of life. Babies of Asian or African descent will usually be born with dark brown or dark grey eyes that mature to deep brown or black. A Caucasian baby will almost always have blue eyes in the womb, even if they're destined to become green or brown. Geneticists used to believe that one gene determined the colour of the eyes. But new research has shown that several genes are responsible, and it's impossible to tell, just from looking at the parent's eyes, what colour the baby's eyes will be. Perhaps the most keenly developed of all the fetal senses is hearing. The fetus may be completely surrounded by amniotic fluid, but because sound travels through fluid about 4 times faster than it does in air, she has plenty to hear. The first sounds the fetus heard as her ears started picking up vibrations at 13 weeks were the gurgles and rumbles made by the mother's body. A succession of hiccups, burps, bubbles, sloshes and slurps will mark the passage of food, liquid and air in, out, and through the maze of passages and tubes just inches from the baby's ears. The fetus too makes her own noises as she kicks and swishes in the amniotic fluid. She will also hear the competing thuds of heartbeats, her own racing at twice the speed of her mother's, both her constant companions through her time in the womb.